All righty, here we go. Welcome tonight, Madison District Public Schools special meeting, Tuesday, January 26, 2021. Meeting is called to order. Pledge of Allegiance is by Mrs. Beaver, and she is going to ask, she has requested a moment of silence for a Madison District family member that has passed. So the floor is yours, Mrs. Beaver.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chair, can I say something first before we have a moment? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to send my condolences and love to the entire LaForge family. Wayne was a true definition of a family man. He also loved Madison. There was plenty of times that I would put a post out on Facebook about a need, and within minutes he would reach out, and he's bought coats for kids in our district. He's donated food. He's been just a constant support for our students. I had seen a post today out on Facebook from one of his former players, and it just said that he was the true definition of bleeds gold and purple, and I truly believe that. So to the LaForge family, I am so sorry. And if we could just take a moment of silence to honor him.
Probably good, baby.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mrs. Beaver. Next up, roll call.
Mrs. Beaver.
Here.
Ms. Chambliss.
Here.
Mr. Holcomb.
I'm here in Madison Heights, Michigan, Oakland County, in my home.
Mrs. Holder.
Here, Madison Heights, Michigan, in my home.
Mrs. Ott.
Here, Madison Heights, Michigan, in my home.
Ms. Scott.
Here, Oakland County, Madison Heights, Michigan.
Mrs. Thompson.
Here, Madison Heights, Oakland County, and here in my house.
Who threw that diaper on the floor like that and left it?
Wasn't me.
Did we get everybody? Mrs. Chambliss, were you called or did I miss it?
I was, yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Obviously, I missed it. Next up is, first of all, I wanted to ask, because we do have the facilities meeting, and I know we were going to go into closed session for the secretary's contract. Mr. Abdullahad, can we do the presentation and then do the resolution, the second reading for our policy change, the budget amendment, and then go into closed session where I can't find you. There you are. And then go into closed session for the secretary's contract.
You would have to amend the agenda to
So
just
that's what I'm
change-
trying to do now.
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely.
So
Yep.
can we move that then to 4B? Is there any objection? Hearing none, that's where it will go. Okay. And with
Excuse me, Chair,
that-
do we need to vote on the,
We
sorry.
never had to, but we can do that if you'd like.
I thought we voted on that.
All right,
Like I said, we never used to, but we can do that just to be certain. I need a
I'll make the
maker
motion.
of the motion, please.
I'll make the
I'll
motion.
second.
Okay, Mr. Holcomb was the maker. Mrs. Thompson was the support. And roll call vote, please.
Discussion?
Oh, yes, any discussion? Yes,
I
go
got
ahead, Mrs. Beaver.
Thank you. Is this a motion to change the order of the agenda or
Yes.
to add it to go into closed session?
Well, we're gonna have to do both. It's both. We're going into closed session, but I'm also gonna move it down.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Yep, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Sarah, you're up.
Mrs. Beaver,
Yes.
Ms. Chambliss,
Yes.
Mr. Holcomb,
Yes.
Mrs. Holder,
Yes,
Mrs. Ott,
Yes.
Ms. Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
thank you. Okay, next up, facility assessment performances, services, presentation. That's a mouthful. Who we talking to?
Madam President, I
Yes.
got Michael Livingdale here. I'll do the sharing of my screen while he and his team introduce himself and do the facilities assessment for you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else I need to unmute?
Jerry Rolston and Marianne McMahon.
Okay, I just set an invite to unmute.
Also Bob Weedy. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Livingdale.
Sarah, I need to share my screen. I'm sorry, Michael.
No sweat, buddy.
I'm unable to share my screen yet. Yep, I'm good now, Sarah.
Hey, there we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Livingdale. I'm up in White Lake here in Oakland County. And we've been working with Angel for, about 1.5 years now. So I work with Performance Services. I have with me our Director of Architecture, Jerry Rolston, who's been an architect for over 30 years. We also have Marianne McMahon with us. She was actually a school administrator and a former superintendent, principal, you name it, she's done it. Also for about 34 years, and now she's a consultant with us. I have Bob Weedy, our regional manager on, and then I'm in charge of business development here in Michigan. So about 1 year ago, we met with Angel, and then we started doing an appraisal and evaluation of your current facilities, including the middle school, the high school, and a little bit more of a cursory look at the elementary. And so tonight what we want to do is just give you kind of a good overview of some of the findings that we have and explain to you how we prioritize things. Angel, if you could go to the next slide. So really what we did with the facility assessment here is we tried to focus on things that would impact your school overall for both your current students, your teachers, to help also increase retention, help you get students in the future, prioritize those needs. So we took a big look at some of the infrastructure, and that would be a lot of things like mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, the general construction of the building envelope. As you all are probably aware, you have some pretty good problems with the roof, and over at the high school, a secure entry for the front of that, doing some different work for the interiors and finishes and equipment on the interiors to update your classrooms and give you a little bit better learning environment. Updating the restrooms, even adding in a restroom, adding in some extra spaces over at the high school. And then we did a program assessment where we looked at the educational space and how you were utilizing your space, and working with Angel, his team, and some of the folks over at the high school, try to get a better layout and maximize some of the spaces. You have a lot of spaces that are kind of hybrids over there. So just helping them update those spaces to make them more efficient at what they're doing. Next slide. So real quick about us. We met with Angel at first, and then we've worked with some of your former board members, and maybe some of you have met us, but we were established in 1998 specifically to serve the K-12 school market. One thing that's kind of unique about Performance Services, in the school market, you generally hire an architect separate and then have a construction manager. It causes, a lot of different functions to kind of point fingers at each other. And with our company, everything is really wrapped into an integrated process. We have our own architect teams, we have our own engineers, our own estimators, project management. So we can handle everything that you would need for a large construction project from beginning to end. We even do complete bond campaign support with surveys, marketing, you name it. Overall, because of that, that's been a really successful method. We've done 1.8 billion in projects. About 50% of our clients are repeat clients. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we do our work with no change orders. So if any of you had experience with construction before, one of the biggest things you'll experience in a construction project is changes throughout that cost you money. In the case of performance services, we shift the risk of a construction project from the school system to us. So we truly represent you throughout the entire project. We have close to 200 employees, 134 Energy Star buildings, and again, about 90% of our work is done with schools. We're based down in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we have a lot of business throughout the Midwest and then as far reaching as really Texas and North Carolina now. So we're a growing company, and it's mostly because the method and the way we go to market works, and we're able to try to bring value add. Angel, go ahead, next slide. One of the things that we did in looking at your buildings, instead of just giving you a giant report about telling you everything that was going on, including, you know, cracks in sidewalks, we wanted to focus on things that would really help your teachers and your students. So study after study shows that the school environment and school construction projects make a difference, and it's significant. When you do, this is from a Yale study and also a Harvard study are mixed in here, but when you do work on schools and you improve the environment, you know, like everything from mechanical to how the aesthetics of the building, your school enrollment tends to go up about 16%. Student performance goes up 15%. We have cases in Wisconsin of buildings that we did where performance went up 25% after a big project. Health is another big issue. Obviously, your mechanical systems, your air, your filtration, especially in the world of COVID now, we have very specific things that we do to battle COVID and future pandemics. But asthma is the #1 cause of school absenteeism. When you improve your mechanical systems, you improve the health of your buildings, and that shows in the amount that the students attend and also your teachers. It drastically reduces how many substitute teachers. Again, using the school in Wisconsin that we had done, it reduced absenteeism by over 20% for their teachers also. It has a direct correlation to property values. Clearly, people move to an area because of the schools. And with Michigan being a school of choice state, it's very important that you look at these things and consider these things in your budget and your battles and what you're doing, because every day people are trying to win that battle to have students. Next slide. So real quick, and I'll let Jerry take over from here. So our facility assessment focused on trying to get these kinds of outcomes for you. And with that, I'll let Jerry, our Director of Architecture, take over.
Thank you, Michael, and good evening, everyone. Glad to be here this night and talk a little bit about your facilities. So as Michael alluded to some of this already, but areas evaluated, talking specifically at the high school, the exterior building envelope, so that would be all things on the outside of the, say, the building facades, the walls, the doors, the windows, the roof, systems, you know, brick, that type of thing. Interior conditions, that would be the materials and equipment on the inside of the building. The learning environment, so that would be how do you deliver education in the classroom in terms of all the components necessary, technology, furnishings, in the environment in general. Programmatic functionality, that is, when we talk about programs, that is how do you function? How does a space function? What are you doing in that space, basically? That's the program. What's your space utilization? We took a look at that. And mechanical, electrical, infrastructural systems. And so, yeah, go ahead, next slide. Yeah, and so just kind of a few summary items for the high school. Original data construction, 1960, 61 years old. 50 to 70% of the roof is beyond its useful life. So your roofs are in need of replacement. There's been a lot of repairs done to them and ongoing failures. Limited video surveillance. From the outside of the building main entry is not apparent. So when you approach a school building, you want it to be intuitive where you go, where the front door of the building is. The main entry does not provide a secure entry sequence that is that meets today's best practices for how you would enter a school building. There are interior doors, hardware, code issues in the building in certain places. You have limited air conditioning. Most of the building is not air conditioned, and there are aging mechanical systems. And when you talk about the classroom and in the learning environment, the mechanical system is lacking ventilation air. And so that is a #1 contributor to poor indoor air quality. The facility has temperature control systems that are not functioning. So the only way to really to control a lot of the systems is by turning them off and on. The controls are no longer working. There are some technology, classroom technology upgrades needed. There are some programs and spaces that need improvement. In other words, some of the spaces in the facility were originally intended for different programs, but you've adapted them for use currently. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And I've already mentioned the learning environment improvements that are needed. And then additional toilet rooms are desired or renovated. Okay, next slide. So these are kind of the high priority facility roof replacement, majority of the roof, general classroom and corridor renovations that would include finishes, equipment, and infrastructure, science classroom and lab renovations. So some of the labs are not up to date to meet the current program needs for science. Alternative education classroom area that really is kind of living in part of the existing science lab suite. So creating an alternative ed suite specifically. Looking at moving the CNC construction lab from the middle school to the high school. Gymnasium improvements and auditorium improvements, and that would be kind of infrastructure focused and finishes focused. Pool renovations the same. Renovation to the restrooms and including an additional set of toilet rooms, potentially an esports area that may fit into the media center, a main entry exterior renovation and main secure entry improvements, the potential of adding an auxiliary gymnasium to support PE and extracurricular needs, and some improvements to the life skills suite, special ed life skills suite. Okay. We want to look at specifically just some examples of some of the components of the facility. So what you see there on the screen are two boilers. The one on the right is a steam boiler. So in some of the components in your mechanical system are original to the building. So they're vintage 1960, 1961. Okay. So next slide. So again, some examples of some equipment. These are temperature controls components, pneumatics, and pumps. And to a large degree, these temperature control systems are not functioning at all in the building. So as I mentioned previously, the control of the system is really just by turning it off or on rather than letting the temperature controls identify a temperature or a set point and run according to that. Okay. This is an example we thought was a good example of a typical classroom. And so you see a few things circled there on the right. The circle there is showing a portable air conditioner unit. So bringing cool air in, but it's really sized more for like a dorm room. So it's not going to adequately cool that room. And you can see the fan there that is supplementing that. And then the lack of electrical infrastructure in the building. So where is the power that the staff, the teacher is using in that building? Well, there's one outlet centered kind of in the front wall there. And then there's a couple of extension cords then that are pulled over for their ability to be able to use all the electronic equipment in the space. Okay. Another space example here, a couple of different issues going on here in the pool. The circle you see there is condensation on the roof deck. And so what's causing that is poor air circulation, #1, but also would be due to insufficient roof insulation or saturated wet roof insulation from roof leaks, actually. So you have a cold roof deck, and then you have a warm, humid environment inside, and you've got condensation on that. And so that condensation is not good for any indoor environment. You know, over time, that creates deterioration of materials. Okay. Also, original to the building, you have a lot of T12 lighting. So that, I think Bob could talk a little bit more about this, but T12 lighting, I don't believe is manufactured anymore. That's original to the building. So you're talking about 1961 vintage and inefficient lighting systems, and energy inefficient lighting systems.
Yeah, Jerry, real quick, Bob just hopped back on here. He had a little technical difficulty, but it's rather shocking to see T12 bulbs still. They're not even manufactured anymore. You know, new LED lighting would have about a 70 to 75% greater efficiency than those lights. So that's a pretty big reduction in your electricity right away. And then also you'd have a better quality light.
Okay. A couple examples of some toilet rooms here, and just some of the damage to finishes, materials over time where products have been removed and replaced and leaving holes in the walls, maybe where floor urinals were removed and replaced with a wall urinal. So some of those finishes, inconsistencies there. And then the power that is being provided to the wash basin there. Typically that's kind of directly inside the unit and not through an extension cord over to a wall outlet. Okay. Some of the general construction items then we'll focus on. And this is just an image of the roof membrane and some of the ponding, so that when you don't have good slope to roof drains and water collects on your roof, then that creates a condition where your seams will deteriorate sooner. And of course, when you do have failing seams, that water on the roof then causes issues down below, let alone the fact that you would have issues with the seams, but the ponding just exacerbates your conditions. Okay. And on the inside, what does that translate to? It translates to water on the ceiling tiles, the potential for mold growth, stained materials or damaged ceiling materials. And the photo on the right, believe it or not, is collecting. So that was a system to collect leaks and try to concentrate it into one point where it could actually be drained down into a plastic tub waste basket. Okay. So a little bit more about the roof leaks there. So this is just a document we got from the building facility supervisor, and it shows where at this time there were either active leaks or damage due to leaks. So each one of those kind of orange circles on that plan represents an active leak or an active leak that has caused damage. Okay. I mentioned secure entry kind of at the beginning. So this shows you your existing current conditions there. And so, in order to access the reception area, you would be released into the building, but then whoever enters the building really has direct access to the entire facility. So the standard protocols and best practices for secure entries is you would capture your visitors kind of in a secure vestibule area. So you wouldn't let them into the building, and you would direct them into the reception area directly, where then they would be released into the building after their identity and their business has been verified. And so, so you don't operate under that environment currently, and this should be modified to follow the best practices. Okay. On the outside of the building, I also had mentioned this at the beginning. As you look at your main entry facade, it's not clear where your main entrance would be. So the right side is actually the main entrance. The left side is your event entrance. But for a visitor who's never been to the building, that's hard to discern. So, so one of the things we would propose is, making improvements to make it obvious where you would go, and also just updating the facade so that it looks more contemporary and inviting for the public and for visitors and the students and the staff. Okay. And so as a part of that, we talked about what perhaps could be done with the main entry and the exterior facade. And so here we just have an artist rendition basically of a concept of what might be done. Introduce some school colors, kind of get rid of the heavy elements that are concealing and where the entrances are kind of tucked away. Try to open that up a little bit and give it a little bit more contemporary feel. So the one at the bottom there is kind of the after on the main entrance side. And then the next slide. Then the next slide would show a different perspective, but looking at the event entrance side. So you know, the thought there with the kind of the raised angled roof canopy on the main entrance side is kind of reflecting maybe an eagle's wing kind of type of thing. So trying to kind of stay with this the theme of the mascot for the high school. Okay. And inside, just some additional interior learning environment photographs here. The one on the left there, you see the circle. It's showing, you know, the blinds aren't functioning. So what did they do for that room to kind of reduce the glare in the room? They hung some sheets in a panel there to kind of block that natural light in the room. And then, you know, the right-hand slide is just, again, it's showing that T12 lighting, kind of some aged ceiling panels, and the condition of the space. Okay. Couple more learning environment images here. The one on the right this is an example of one of those kind of adapted use spaces. So I think the bulkheads and things that were as a part of this room originally, I think that was maybe a home ec classroom environment, but then that space was modified and adapted for other learning. Okay. More kind of images there of worn conditions. Some of the doors are vintage doors, and you can see there on the one door how it's kind of worn and aged and damaged on the edge. On the outside of the building, a little bit more about building envelope issues, kind of the metal roof edge metal. It's pulling away from the building, and of course that leads to roof leaks. Okay. And then kind of as we wrap up the learning environments portion there, we do have a few images of some contemporary current day learning environments. These are some large group instruction, kind of lab makerspace type environments that we're showing here, but it just gives you an idea of what a contemporary modern learning environment might be. Okay. Now, we move into the program assessment. So here we have a floor plan that identifies some of these key program elements. And some of these I've talked about before, you know, the main secure entry piece, where that's located in the, but also some other things that would support and improve the learning, teaching, and administering environment for the district, potentially expanding the storage for student services, that being able to move some classes around and account for that. You can see the science suite in the lower right-hand corner that currently actually has part of the alternate ed program in it. So reclaiming that as a science suite and redeveloping those labs and classes. So you would have maybe a lab class arrangement, and then moving alternate ed to a core where you could have a suite of spaces with a computer lab kind of working together, self-contained within the building. Then as you kind of move up on the page, redeveloping an area of the building that used to be toilet rooms, but was converted to storage, kind of redeveloping that back into toilet rooms, so that there are toilets in that corner of the building. The nearest ones are kind of opposite corner and down towards the main entry area. Then at the life skills suite, the special ed life skills suite, expanding that suite so that there are toilets that are kind of self-contained within that suite so that those students don't have to leave that area, plus providing a culinary or a kitchen type of environment to support their life skills training. Then in the kind of the center of where the used to be the industrial tech portion of the building, redeveloping that part of the building so that it would support, number one, bringing the CNC lab from the middle school over. You have a nice space there that could be converted for that. That would be excellent for being able to bring materials in, storing materials, and then creating a shop. The possibility of creating a computer lab that would support IT and programming, as well as general computer lab uses. And then possibly paired up with another lab that could be a general lab or a robotics lab. And that robotics piece component would work nicely with the computer lab element that's right adjacent to it. Then if you move down on the page there, the potential for developing an esports component in the media center. That could be an extracurricular element that would be a draw and interest for students. And then to the left and above the gymnasium, we're representing there in this box right above the gym, a potential auxiliary gym expansion point. That location probably makes the most sense as you look at the building because it would offer easy access from a corridor and not have to kind of cut through any other spaces in order to access it. And it could have direct access from the locker rooms and good adjacency to the main gymnasium. And then at the bottom of the page, a couple of other improvements, the possibility of maybe connecting the girls' locker directly to the main gym because they do not have that access currently. And then reclaiming what I believe was originally a performing arts space, but was adapted for other uses. And so that you have kind of a pair of performing arts spaces, one for band and one for choir. Okay. So those are kind of some of the main program elements that we looked at for the building. And then moving on, just kind of a high level summary of what we think potentially some of the cost would be for the project. This is a summary of that. It's broken down by essentially kind of program components or building envelope. So the first component would be roof replacement, decking repair. Then we focus on classroom and corridor renovations. And when we look at these, each one of these renovations, we're talking about kind of renovations through and through. It would be infrastructure, lighting, finishes, you know, addressing all those elements. And then looking at the science lab renovations, an item that identifies alternative ed, the CNC lab, life skills expansion, a makerspace or robotics lab, gymnasium renovation, auditorium renovation, pool renovation, restrooms, esports area, secure entry and office renovation. And then we have an item specifically for furniture and loose equipment to support the program improvements. And the last item then would be a new auxiliary gym addition. And so the total of those then adds up to just a little bit over 12 million. The list is kind of developed so that you could kind of build up to what is desired. And this is kind of a first pass, just kind of a preliminary review of what those components and their values could be. Okay, I'll back over to Michael Livendale to kind of talk about the next piece here.
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, you all have a lot on your plate. And I know tonight you're voting to talk about a refund. And some of that would be if you did move forward with a possible bond election. Just here would be the key dates if you wanted to try to get out for the August election, which is a very popular time to go for bond refis or renewals. First, you have to do what's called schedule a PQ meeting. So it's a preliminary qualification meeting with the state of Michigan Treasury Department. And that's to get a qualified bond. That way you get a better rate and you work with the state on that. And it would be our company's job to help you fill out all that paperwork and go with you and help you really direct that meeting. You'd have to hire a company like ours, and then you have to, the real key is you have to do some board approvals. So you have to, once we get the final project decided, if you were to move forward, you would have to, do a preliminary qualification application approval. Then you submit that draft. You have to do that by late March. So we're just using some kind of placekeepers here. You have to submit it to Treasury about 2 weeks early. You give it to your law firm Troon first. Then you meet with Treasury late March. It takes them about a week to tell you that your preliminary qualification is approved. Then from there, you kind of finalize the numbers. You know what I mean? You figure out exactly what you want. You tighten up the application a little bit, and you go back to the state Treasury in April. So once again, the board would first approve any sort of changes. And keep in mind, you can go for the preliminary qualification meeting and then not go for a bond later. I mean, that's not ideal, obviously, but what they're trying to do is give you a way to get into this, start to develop your program, work with, you know, a professional services company so that you understand the exact cost of what you're getting into. Once you do the final bond application, it takes almost a month to get that approved. And then you have to do what's called a call for election. And Troon, your law firm, will walk you through those steps, and a company like ours would work with you on that too, to try to get you from there to an August 3rd election. So you can see you'd still have a couple months where you could educate your community and really get their input on some of the things that you're doing, bring them into the facility, see what it is, give them an idea. Particularly, you know, we do a lot of drawings, a lot of assessments to show them what a classroom would look like in the future. So it's, you know, really get their input on this. And then that would get you to an August 3rd election. So it's a active time of year. A lot of folks are going out for that August 3rd election. You know, a lot of bonds have expired in the state. We've got 2 other school systems that we're working with that are going for essentially what is a renewal or a no cost increase in August. And it's a little bit easier of an election to control. The November fall elections are always kind of more difficult to control who votes. And so I, you know, just wanted to make sure you guys had an awareness of those timelines. Any questions from anybody? I see Cindy shaking her head no. And Beth, by the way, gesundheit. And way to sneeze into your elbow. Thank you for demonstrating that properly.
Mr. Holcomb is muted and he wanted to speak.
Mr. Holcomb, did you mute yourself?
Yes, he did. He said.
Okay, so if you have a question, there you go.
Okay.
You have the floor, Mr. Holcomb.
The dates on that was year 2022. Is that right, or is it 2021?
Oh, geez, I apologize. Thank you, Mark. From now on, Mark, I will understand that you are good with details. Yeah, sorry, that's 2021. I got a little excited about advancing a full year ahead.
So that's all 2021.
Yeah, sorry about that, Angel. I just made this change like last week too. I apologize.
Okay.
I got so excited with the new year. I think it's 2022, evidently. Thanks, Mark, for pointing that out. Yeah, so this is immediate stuff. This is for this year. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anybody else have questions? Obviously, you know, at any time after today, we have the information from the presentation. And no, I appreciate your time and the information. And I've been through this three times already. So, but I know other people have not. So thank you very much. And it definitely is information that we have if we want to discuss it later.
Yeah, and so, you know, we can
There's
do a
no
work group
motion
meeting
today.
No,
Yeah,
we could do a work
there's
group
no
meeting with you
motion
anytime.
on the agenda today. So this was strictly your presentation, okay?
Thanks, Cindy. Appreciate it.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
You all have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you so
You
much.
too.
Thanks, Michael.
Okay. And after that, we are moving to the approval of the resolution authorizing the issuance and delegating the sale of Madison District Public Schools 2021 refunding bonds. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing the issuance and delegating the sale of Madison District Public Schools 2021 refunding bonds. Who wants to take this?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Folder.
Ms.
I'll second
Beaver-
it. I'll second.
Okay. Mrs. Beaver is making the motion and Ms. Scott has the support. And as far as discussion, Mr. Abdullah, do you want to start with, or Dr. Hill, an explanation?
I could start, and then Edwina, if you could chime in. Again, we are essentially, if you're looking at a house that you have say you have 10 years left on your mortgage and you're paying about 4.5%. We are essentially refinancing the remaining 10 years at a lower interest rate to give the taxpayers about $1 million and 1.1 million in savings. Our effort here is to show the taxpayers that we're fiscally responsible with their money because they're the ones that are paying. The taxpayers are the ones that are paying this 2013 bond. We are just trying to help them to go from approximately 4.5% to approximately 2.5% rate. That is a huge savings to taxpayers. So on a $9.9 million is what we have remaining on the 2013 bond that the district took out. $1.1 million is over 10% savings. What we're trying to do is show the taxpayers we are grateful for what you gave us in 2013. We are trying to help, and it's a win-win. It's really it's a win for the taxpayers, and it's our way to show them that we're trying to help them, and we have an opportunity to reduce the interest rate. Edwina, if you want to say anything on that.
Yes, Angel, thank you very much. You know, the easiest example is the refinancing of the house. You know, you buy a house, you're at one interest rate. We have the ability to go out to work with an underwriter to get a lower interest rate. That's what we want to do. And it's a benefit of $1.1 million cheaper than what we would originally have to pay. So, yes, Crystal, I see your hand up.
Go ahead, Crystal.
Thank you. I just have two questions regarding this. I've read through it. This does not extend the loan date, correct?
Correct.
So it doesn't extend our payoff?
Nope. It does not extend the terms. It does not extend anything. We're just trying to get a lower rate.
And the money goes directly to our taxpayers, correct? So like the school district isn't going to get that 1.1 million. That automatically goes back to the taxpayers where we don't have to pay that.
Yeah.
Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, they're not getting any money back. They're going to essentially pay off their loan faster because now it's at a lower rate. So you as a taxpayer, you are on the hook right now for $9.9 million. Every one of you here. And you're paying about 4.5% interest. We are trying to lower your interest rate. Essentially, you're going to pay off that mortgage quicker and at a savings to you. The district's not getting any money for that. We're trying to be good stewards of the money that's been entrusted in us.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Hill, were you not done?
Oh, no. Thank you. I said what I needed to say, and we appreciate the ability to get the bonding.
Thank you. And Mr. Holcomb, you had your hand up.
Okay, so the original bond is going to be paid off in 10 years.
So I believe you have about 10 years. It was
9 years.
It was pulled in 2013, and I believe you got about 10 years left. Whatever you have, we're not changing the terms or extending we're not doing any of that. We're not taking additional money. We're not doing any of that. All we are doing is lowering the interest rate, nothing else.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else have any?
That's the only bond that the district has right now, nothing else. We don't have any other debt in bonds related other than this 2013 bond.
Yes.
Madam President?
Yeah, Mrs. Ack, go ahead.
I have a question. And this has nothing to do with, well, it does have something to do with the refinance because I think a refinance is good. But the 11 million that we took out, where did we use that money 7 years ago?
That 2013 you rebuilt and
mainly
you
the elementary
Madison Elementary was some of that money, and then part of that money was Edison in 2013. So when you took out the bond in 2013, you rebuilt Madison Elementary, which was Shane Hall's, and you kind of redeveloped that. And then I believe, was it $500,000 for Madison Edison building that was allocated for that?
$255,000.
$255,000 out of that 11 million original money was allocated to that building.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
And
No
Madam
hand.
President, can I just say something?
Mr. Abdullah Had, you go right ahead.
Yeah, when you're going into, when you're going to the taxpayers for money, that money has to be strictly directed to what you're saying to the treasurer. So that money does not go into anyone's pockets. It does not go for any contracts. It does not go anything else other than infrastructure. Every penny has to be accounted for, and it goes directly to infrastructure. It does not go to any contract assurance or any securities on that or any employee costs. None of that is impacted by the bond. It does not go to anyone other than the actual building that's being allocated for.
Right. Thank you. And again,
Madam President?
one second, Mrs. Ott and Dr. Hill. It's just money that it's going to be a reduced amount of taxes that are collected. I don't want anybody looking in their mailbox for a check.
Right. You won't get a check. Instead of paying the higher interest rate, we're going to pay a lower interest rate and pay off that $9 million that we owe currently on the present bonds. That's all we're asking.
Okay.
You know, if you keep a higher interest rate, it's going to take you more time to pay off $9 million.
Right.
Right. I appreciate that. Thank you. Mrs. Ott, go right ahead.
Yeah, I just want to clarify so no one thinks I'm pointing fingers. I was just asking to make sure that there wasn't a warranty, a work that we're going to redo that would still be in force. That's all. I wasn't pointing my fingers at anybody.
No, you're right. No, you would. I didn't view it as that, Miss Ott.
Okay.
I think we have needs, as you all know. The district has needs, and we're not telling you anything other than presenting you the information that is needed and let you digest everything. That's why we're not asking you to take any action. It takes a lot to absorb all of this, and it's strictly informational right now, just so you could digest all this information.
Okay. And Mrs. Thompson, you had your hand up.
And I think I missed, what did we do at Edison back in 2013?
I thought it was boilers or
Yeah,
something.
we
It
had some
seems to
boiler
me-
work
I had
done.
left, but yeah, I thought it had something to do with the heating.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had a lot of boiler work done to the tune of $255,000, and we spent the remainder on the elementary school. I think it was rebuilt. They used the bond to rebuild the
Right.
elementary school back then.
Right.
And like Angel said, you know, one thing about bonds, you know, we would have to go to the Department of Treasury and ask how the bond is spent, and then you have to spend it that way, or you get written up by the auditors.
Right. Yep. We've had those red flags in the past. We're not going there again. We're gonna do our due diligence. I have every faith in that. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Hearing none, I think we're ready to vote. Sarah, can you take roll, please? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Mrs. Ott has her hand up.
Do we have to make a motion on this resolution?
Have
Did
one.
we not? I thought,
Crystal and I
That-
took,
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
okay. Then I couldn't find my notes, but I thought we had written it down.
Yes, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
thank you. That's okay. Sarah, you're up.
Ms. Scott,
yes.
Mr. Holcomb,
Yes.
Mrs. Beaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Ott,
Yes.
Mrs. Holder,
Yes.
Ms. Chambliss.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Next up is the second reading and the adoption of policy 2266. Oh, here we go. Policy is now ready for a second reading, and after this reading, if it is passed, it would be adopted, just for clarity's sake. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the second reading and adaptation of policy 2266, non-discrimination on basis of sex in education programs or activities. I need a maker of the motion, please.
Madam
I'll make the
President,
motion, Madam President.
Okay, I saw Beth Scott, so Beth is the maker, and do we have support?
I'll
I'll
second it.
support it.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. And with that, we open it for discussion. Anybody have anything that they want to ask or say? Seeing none, we will move and have roll call, please, Sarah.
Mr. Holcomb,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Chambliss,
Yes.
Mrs. Holder,
Yes.
Mrs. Beaver,
Yes.
Ms. Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Ott.
yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. Moving ahead to the budget amendment. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the 2020-2021 first budget amendment. And I realize that there might be some questions only because this will be new for some, but Dr. Hill, this is after I get a maker and a support, you can do your presentation and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have a maker?
Madam President, I'll make the motion.
Mrs. Ott, and do we have support?
I'll
No
support.
support. Nope, okay.
I didn't hear, I didn't,
I'll
Beth.
support.
okay, Beth, Mrs. Scott. And with that, we open the discussion. Dr. Hill, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. The first budget amendment has been forwarded to the board members for view. And I wanted to say about the budget amendment,
Buena,
fiscal year, yes.
are you doing a PowerPoint so we can share your screen, or are you just talking?
I'm doing a PowerPoint.
Okay,
It's a part of the, yes.
okay, you know how to share your screen, right?
Do I have the ability to do that?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay, let me share my screen. Hold on one moment, please.
Mhm. I could also share it for you, Edwina, and as you're talking, I could switch the pages for you.
I would love that. Thank you.
Okay, let me just find it right here. Okay. Budget amendment. Can you all see this?
I can.
Trustee,
I
can you
can.
see this?
I can see it. It's small, but I can see it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. What I wanted to say about the budget amendment tonight, it's something that school districts have to do because we're governed by the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act. And it's basically or 1.434, budget preparation, presentation, and control of expenditures. And school districts are governed by this law, and it basically says, as soon as you realize you will overspend the budget, you're not supposed to. I repeat, you're not ever supposed to spend the approved budget that the board approves for you. And that's the reason why I am presenting our first budget amendment, because our state aid in December, this is the fourth state aid, but by the third, they true up all the student counts and everything. The state aid reports that we receive in October and November, they are based on the counts of last year. So by December, the Michigan Department of Treasury, they true up our student counts and things of that nature, and then they update our foundation allowance, which in this report is $8,111, the same as it was last year, but it's so that we can true up our budget. They true it up for us through the state aid in December, and school districts generally update or show the first budget amendment or ask the board to approve a first budget amendment in December or January. December is usually short. Usually you only have about 2 weeks in December. So generally school districts ask in January for their first budget amendment. And they asked again, depending on the school district's need. Because we want to make sure that our expenditures never exceed the budget that the board has voted on and approved. And this is the reason why it has to be done. You know, and if a school district does not ask the board to approve a budget amendment and the board goes too long, then you can become out of compliance and you can be written up. And it's a very serious thing, very dangerous thing. So here we are. Let me do my presentation. This is my presentation of my first budget amendment. It's for the 2021 school year, which starts July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. This is the time period. In terms of the projected revenue, you know, as my slide says, not yet.
Oh, not yet. Sorry. Are you on slide 2?
Nope, I'm right here. It says, thank you. It says the revenue projected for our foundation allowance is an amount of $8,111, the same as it was last year. Our audited spring count shows that we had 1,060 students. Revenue has been adjusted according to confirmed grant awards, you know, which has increased. And it says the grant awards have been confirmed by the Michigan Department of Ed and any other agencies we receive money from for the year 2021. Projected expenditures, budgeted expenditures are slightly higher due to the increase in the cost of changes and projected expenses. Now remember, this is the budget. This is not what we spent thus far. This is just a budget so that we can operate, so that we can pay bills as they are presented to the district, and so we can run. Educating, you know, expenditures are, you know, we're projecting them kind of as we go because we're in a COVID environment. We have, as a school district, we have been mandated to provide certain things during COVID-19. The increase in the cost of benefits projected in the upcoming year, benefits are increased every year. As you all know, the cost of healthcare and things of that nature keeps rising right now. So we have to accommodate that. And it says, projected groups of the upcoming year, as well as scheduled raises for some bargaining groups. You know, we have 2 bargaining groups that that Angel, he will still go before the teachers and the custodians We have our wonderful secretaries. They've been working very hard. You know, we have to remain a district that keeps in pace with what these expenditures cost as much as we can. We know we have a limited budget, but as much as we can, as best we can, we must do it because our employees work hard and they must be compensated for that. But that's enough of that. So very high level for the public. The revenues right now is at $17,315,533. That's very high level. The board has the details. Our expenditures are set at $17,186,348. This is what we project that we will spend. Our net operations of $129,185 back to our fund balance is what we're projecting. We came in at $129 less in expenditures than we had in revenue. This is what we're projecting at this particular time. This is a budget. This is what we're projecting to spend. So our fund balance as of June 30, 2020 was $4,600.930. But keep in mind that we pay $1.2 million back to the state every year out of that, and we must have that money. So our projected fund balance as of 6/30/21 is $4,734,115. This is my projection at this particular time. Now in June, I'll have a better estimate because the year is over in June. But I have to go to the board again to make sure that we stay in compliance with what the board approved us to spend.
Right.
I had
And
one special note that I wanted. Huh?
I
had
just
one
wanted.
special. Go ahead. Sam.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, because I don't want everybody to jump up and down, that $4 million isn't, at least most of it is claimed money by the state. We have the
Exactly.
1.2 million and we have, is it 2.2 million that we are anticipating the state to come back and take as well? Because I don't want anybody to get excited about seeing $4 million and thinking that we have that to spend. So before we go any further, I just want to make sure we clarify that.
We have,
Thank you.
Ms. Holder, Madam President,
Yes.
that's the reason why we assign it.
Right.
If you look at the Plant Moran audit, we assign it for that reason, because when I look at these numbers, that money's not ours. Now,
Right.
but we have,
Absolutely.
we have doubled our fund balance and we anticipate it tripling and we're anticipating growing. But again, when I look at those numbers, I don't look at the money that the state gave us, which the way I look at it is the only benefit to us is getting the interest rate for putting in a high yield. Other than that's the reason why we assign it. So people can't just arbitrarily say, oh, you got 4 million, Mr. Abdulhad, you could do this and you could do this. No, I can't.
Right.
No, I can't.
And thank you, Mr. Abdulhad. And that was why I didn't mean to interject your presentation, Dr. Hill, but I didn't want anybody that logs off now to think we have $4 million sitting in an account that we have no designation for. So I apologize, but please continue.
Okay, thank you very much to you both. But I wanted to reiterate that, if you look at our audited report as of June 30, $4 million is just about already spoken for.
Right.
For example, we got to pay back the 1.2 million to the state. Then we have a looming $2 million that we could also potentially pay back to the state based on a program that was closed. So if you do your history with that, so all that money is spoken for, we're holding it.
But I do want to highlight, Madam President, that we went from 168 to what we anticipate presenting to the board in June, around $800,000. Again, this is what we're anticipating. So we are growing our fund balance. We are being fiscally responsible while doing all these other things. So we're trying to do it all. We're trying to do it all. And we've been really lucky this year with some of the additional one-time allocations that we've gotten from the state.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, we had that extra COVID money in particular that, right, we
Yeah.
weren't counting on. No, thank you very much, Mr. Abdulahad.
And just-
Dr. Hill?
Yes, just to finish very quickly, you know, the last slide, additional Esser funding. This is not even talking about the COVID. I'm talking about Esser. We received Esser 1 in the amount of $322,372, and then Esser 2 in an amount of 1.3 million. So
Everybody know what Esser is? It's the emergency fund from the government,
It's the, Ms. Thompson, it's the elementary and secondary
Right.
emergency relief fund.
exactly.
That's the technical terms for it, but yeah, it's for schools to operate, given all the computer stuff that we're presenting to you guys for vote, all these PPE stuff that we're presenting, we're allocating that money from there.
Right.
It-
And that name is in my slide, and thank you for your time. I'm done. I could be long-winded, but we appreciate you.
Yeah. Okay, looking back to see everybody, does anybody have any questions? Seeing none. Okay. Thank you very much for everybody's input. It was nice to be able to get all of that clarity, because it's always a little deceptive when you're looking at those numbers and not seeing the background. Okay, seeing no other questions, Ms. Sarah, can you call roll, please?
Mrs. Holder,
Yes.
Mrs. Zat,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Holcomb,
Yes.
Miss Scott,
Yes.
Miss Chambliss,
Yes.
Mrs. Beaver.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
And you know what? The next thing, since we moved it, is to go into closed session for the Local 324 Secretary's contract. And I know that Mr. Abdullah had sent me the verbiage, and I don't have it in front of me.
I'll read it for you right now,
Please,
Madam President. Just give me 1 second.
thank you.
Yep. I'm still looking it up. 1 second.
I apologize. You sent it
Yeah.
to me. I should have wrote it down.
It is, I'm trying to find it. It is 8C, to go into closed session under section 8C of the Open Meetings Act for strategy and negotiation session connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement. If either negotiating party requested a closed hearing. So it's under 8C of the Open Meetings Act for strategy and negotiation session.
Thank you, sir. So can I have someone make that motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Holcomb and Mrs. Zott, will you take the support then?
I sure will.
Okay.
Ms. Holder, can you just
Yes, sir.
make sure you state the reason again, yourself, instead of me reading it? If you could just say it yourself under 8C.
Okay, but I abbreviated what you said, so
Oh,
if I
okay.
need to correct.
Okay,
Under 8C of the Open Meetings Act for negotiations of a group,
Yeah, collective bargaining agreement.
collective bargaining group. Thank you. I never took shorthand.
And I sent you all an email already, along with legal. And Dr. Hill, you requested Dr. Hill be on that as well.
Yeah, I
So,
didn't know if we would have questions, and I see Mr. Urban's here, just in case anybody has a question. I didn't realize initially. I had asked him, of course, to be at a few of our meetings while we're all getting our feet wet. So he is here now, per my request continued, just so everybody is aware. And yes, Ms.
Madam
Scott.
President.
Yes.
So are we going to take a vote on this to go into closed
Yes.
session? And we're going to have a discussion, correct?
In closed session, yes, we are.
Wait, okay, so we're going to vote.
Oh,
to
we
go into
can
clo-
have discussion, yes.
Okay,
Absolutely. We will
Okay.
have discussion before we vote. So,
I'm saying, are we going to discuss, can we have a discussion, not specifics about the contract, but can we discuss
No.
The vote.
before we go into closed session?
we are discussing going into closed session. And that is it at that time. That's the motion that's being made.
So,
Okay.
Madam President, if I
Yes,
can
sir.
interject, if someone makes a motion, someone seconds it, and then you vote, and then you do discussion, and then you go into a closed session. Is that what Ms. Scott's referring to?
Yes.
I think
that-
so.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Okay.
So did I answer your question, Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So does anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Ms. Chambliss,
Yes.
Ms. Scott,
No.
Mr. Holcomb,
Yes.
Mrs. Beaver,
I'm sorry, do we normally do a roll call vote before the discussion, or would we discuss?
I asked and I
I'm
didn't
confused,
see
I'm
anybody
sorry.
else raise
Oh,
your
okay.
hand, so I
Okay,
thought we
then
were
yes,
done.
I'm fine. I just didn't know if Ms. Scott had something that she wanted to say about going to closed session, and I don't want to take that from her before voting, so that was all.
I thought we covered that. Okay, so your response, Mrs. Beaver?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mrs. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Ott,
Yes.
Mrs. Holder.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Okay, so for me, who's tech-tarded, I hope I can do this much more smoothly than I did the last time.
So,
We are going
Madam
to
President,
close. Yes, sir.
So the motion passes. Technically, you do the motion, second it, discussion, and then we go in. But now I already sent you the link. So if you leave this meeting and open up your email that I sent you, you'll see the closed session link that I sent to the trustees along with Joe Urban from Clark Hill and Dr. Hill.
Okay,
what-
let me,
That's what I want. That's what I was trying to clarify, that we were going to discuss before we went into closed session.
and when I asked you, I'm sorry, because when I asked you, I thought that you had asked your questions, Ms. Scott, so I
No.
apologize. I thought it had been asked and answered, so that was my misunderstanding. So just so that we give you the opportunity, what was the discussion that you wanted to have?
Okay, so I'm kind of confused why we would go into closed session for this contract because I personally have not been in a closed session for any of the other union contracts. And the recommendation, which I'm going to assume is by Mr. Abdullahad, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Abdullahad, it says, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the agreement between MDPS and the local 324 for the secretaries. So I'm assuming, Mr. Abdullahad, that because I remember back in October or November, you've been sending us updates. So you've been in discussion with them, you've come to an agreement with the union, and now you're just the union and with yourself. So I'm assuming that you've been dealing with legal and finances, and so you're just really looking for approval for this.
Yeah, so we've been bargaining close to 5 months now. We have a tentative agreement that, as your negotiator, under your bylaws, I negotiated in good faith with the union. We've been doing it for about 5 months now. And before you is the contract. Again, as the board, you have to decide yes or no. So I could only present you my recommendation. Here's my recommendation. This is what I believe. This is what we've been doing for the last 5 months. And then you take action. So when you say it's recommended, it's because I am recommending to the board the approval of this contract. And so
Okay.
that's why I said it is recommended.
Okay, so that, I guess I'm confused, and I've been on the board for 2 years. So for the couple of board members that are new, I wanted to clarify, is this a normal procedure for us to go into closed session for contracts, since we've approved several other contracts, single, whatever you want to call it, without going into closed session, is what I'm trying to get.
I'm going to let Mr. Urban talk, and then I'm going to say something as well. But go ahead, Mr. Urban, you have the floor.
Yeah, so 2 things for the board. As Mr. Abdulahad had indicated, he can come with his recommendation, but it is up to the board whether it wishes to ratify the agreement that he entered into or that he tentatively agreed to or not. It is also not inappropriate for the board to consider discussion about a collective bargaining agreement or a recommended collective bargaining agreement in closed session. That's why the exception exists in the Open Meetings Act. Some boards that sometimes choose to take advantage of it, some boards that sometimes choose not to. You've got a lot of new members on this board, so it's not inappropriate to go into closed session to discuss a collective bargaining agreement.
Okay, and I guess I will add, I wanted this for a few reasons. First of all, it's the way it was always done when I was on the board in the past. We set parameters. The bargaining committee did their thing that kept us updated, and then we, we were in the loop. We owned part of our responsibility for the whole process. And because that's what I'm comfortable with, I wanted for all of us to own our share of that. This is not just Mr. Abdulahad. And because we have so many new members, and this is kind of the first time that a group contract is being negotiated, I wanted everyone the opportunity to ask questions, share concerns, and so here we are.
Thank you for your explanation. I'm just asking because we've never done it before.
Absolutely. And I'm doing it the way I've always done it. So it's just it. Actually, Mrs. Chambliss, your hand is disappearing to your background. So you might want to raise the other one. Go ahead. There you go.
So when we're going into closed session, are we going in to negotiate the terms? Like, are we trying to alter it, or are we just going in to get further detail of what is in? Because the way I read it was like, we're either approving what Mr. Abdulahad recommends us to adopt, or we don't. So then are we going into closed session to try to alter this and negotiate it and change it?
We'll have to see what happens when we go into closed session. Like I said, this is the time that I want everybody to have the opportunity to become familiar, ask questions. This is a relatively, I don't want to say it's small, but in comparison to the next 2 groups, this one is small. And I want everyone to understand the process and our responsibility in it. So this is first one up, and this is the way I would like to do it. Yes, Mrs. Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Urban, can you please cite the rules on closed session for the new members?
He's
He's
muted.
muted. There he is.
Yeah, so the board can go into closed session for, there's a number of enumerated reasons. In this case, it's 8C of the Open Meetings Act. It's in Section 8 of the Open Meetings Act that contains all of the reasons. 8C of the Open Meetings Act talks about strategy with regards to negotiations, and certainly discussing strategy and discussing how we achieve outcomes is strategy. That falls under 8C. There are other reasons that are enumerated in the Open Meetings Act, but this is the relevant one right now. You take a vote. Sometimes it's a roll call vote, depending on which section of the Open Meetings Act you're dealing with. In this case, you're safe because you took a roll call vote anyway. And you go into closed session for the enumerated purpose. And then once the closed session is complete, you come out. Discussions in closed session need to stay in closed session. It's actually a criminal offense, misdemeanor, to break the seal of closed session. Also, closed session minutes, or any minutes that are taken in closed session, which are, generally, when you went into closed session, when you came out of closed session, and the reason you went into closed session. Those minutes are retained in a separate location by the school district for a year and a day, after which they are permitted to be destroyed by statute. And that pretty much covers the waterfront with regard to the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no problem. My pleasure.
Okay, and we did take roll. So are there any other questions before we go into closed session? Seeing none. Mr. Abdullah had said that he sent us the link. And so I am going to.
I'll log out and I'll meet you on the other side. My phone's also available if you need help logging in.
Okay, who's back? Better be careful, Beth. We might become friends.
Sorry, Sarah, it was habit to come in and mute.
No.
Oh, all right. So my picture isn't there. I could be anybody I wanted to be. I want to be in Edwina's home. That's where I want to be. Looks pretty comfy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
No.
believe it's not real. It's looking pretty cozy. Who are we waiting on? Gloria and Rebecca. Yes.
I just let Gloria in.
Okay.
We can't talk you into staying, eh, Sarah?
Mhm.
So we can't talk you out of that, eh?
Nope.
Oh,
She hesitated.
yes, you did.
She hesitated.
Yes. You go through.
Where's Gloria?
My video's off. I'm here.
And there's Rebecca. I don't see Gloria.
I gotta start my video. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay.
There she
I'm
is.
back.
Okay, so we can be officially back in. And the time looks to me like 8:30. Is that about what you guys have?
9:28.
28.
Oh, geez. 9:28. I apologize. I can't even tell time. Okay, so we are back in. The next thing on the agenda is approval of the agreement between MDPS and IUOE Local 324, the Secretaries Union. Do we have a maker?
I'll make the motion.
Well,
I'll make the motion. Beth Scott.
Beth Scott is making the motion.
And I'll second it.
Mr. Holcomb is doing the second. Any discussion? Seeing none. Sarah, roll call, please.
Mrs. Ott,
Yes.
Miss Chambliss,
Yes.
Mrs. Holder,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson,
Yes.
Miss Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Beaver,
Yes.
Mr. Holcomb.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank
you,
everybody for the time they invested in this. And next is public fundamentals. Public input is fundamental to the operation of Madison District Public Schools. Our public has an opportunity to speak at every Board of Education meeting. A period of time known as public comment is set aside at each meeting to give parents and other citizens a chance to speak directly to the board about school-related topics. Anybody who wishes to speak to the board must fill out a request form and give it to the board secretary. Obviously, that isn't prudent right now. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. School employees will not use this forum to discuss job-related topics. The Board of Education accepts comments made during public comment from anybody who follows the guidelines. Public comment is one of the many information sources the board uses before making decisions in the best interest of the children who attend Madison District Public Schools. The board also works with the district's staff to address citizens' questions and concerns. So, Sarah, do we have anybody that's asked to be recognized?
No.
Okay, then with that, I'm gonna close this portion of the meeting and move on to committee reports. First one, GRC report. Anybody have anything to say? Ms.
Yes.
Scott, the floor is yours.
Okay, so we really actually haven't had a GRC meeting as of yet. It's February 3rd is going to be at 7 p.m. and I will forward that information when the meeting is, because anyone on the board can meet. And I might as well go on with the other. We did have Oakland County School Board Association meeting on the 20th, and there was a presentation there from Deshandra from MASB. They're starting a grassroots advocacy group. And the next Oakland County School Board Association is this Wednesday, the 27th from 7 p.m. to 8:15. They call it conversation number 16. Whatever it will be, we talk a lot about COVID, the money coming to the schools. And I don't think Crystal or Rebecca can chime in here if they choose to. We haven't gotten, we're just in discussing where the money, like Title I fund money is gonna, how much we're getting for that and where it should go. And Oakland County School Board Association is also going to be offering new board members, mentors that they can reach out to and talk to. Oakland County School Board Association has a meeting March 2nd by Zoom with Dr. J. Marks from Oakland County School Board on diversity and equity. He's a diversity and equity consultant. And then the regular Oakland County School Board meeting is going to be March 3rd, which I can pass that all on. I'm sure everyone gets the updates on Oakland County School Board when the meetings are, but they are very helpful, and especially current things that are going on with COVID response and the money and where the numbers are. And it's been very helpful in just different questions I've had. And so that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Anything there? Don't see any hands, so we'll move on. Parks and Rec.
Rebecca had her hand up.
Rebecca.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We actually have our first meeting coming up this Wednesday. Anybody can attend. I can forward the information to Mr. Abdulahad, and then he can send it out in case anybody didn't get it. But we should have more at the next board meeting to update on.
Great, thank you. All right, on to Parks and Rec. Any report?
That would be me.
Mrs. Thompson, you have the floor.
Hi, we met last Thursday, January, was it last Thursday? Don't quote me on the date. Let's just go through what I wrote down. First of all, we need to find a student representative. I noticed that Lamphir has one. Oh, well, they just lost one and they're looking for another one, but they've always had one.
Yeah.
They did make a remark that they don't have a Madison representative. Lamphir's superintendent reported that their students are going back, which would have been Monday yesterday.
Right.
Which surprised me. All of the summer programs are going forward in the city, just for your information. They said to watch for a brochure that's coming out, and it'll have all the activities that happen between April through September. I don't think that brochure is out yet, but they talked about it. They're going to be starting a spring planting. They're going to be planting trees at the south end of Madison Heights. Basically, they're going to be doing the streets of Barrett and Dallas, but I know last year they did do some on Barrett because they put one in front of our house. Moving on, the Kaboom program granted the Madison Heights. They granted funding for the library and City Hall. They never did say how much. They're doing an asset inventory of all the parks. So if you see anything or need to report that, let them know. There's no ice rink at Rosie's, or there hasn't been. Somebody's been questioning it and wondering why. It's because they flooded it and it never froze. MDPS. They want everyone to be on the lookout for trees. They're trimming trees across the city to just watch out for the tree trimming trucks. They're refurbishing the tables in all the parks, and all activities at the Nature Center are continuing to be outside because of COVID, January through mid-March. And that's pretty much all I wrote down. Okay.
Awesome. And next is board comments. So let's start with Gloria. You have the floor. Go
Thanks.
ahead. You still
I
have your
just want
notes.
everybody to know that we weren't picking on secretaries. I think we pretty much had decided to ratify. We just wanted to go into closed session and discuss. I don't want anybody to get the idea that we don't like this, we don't like the way you're doing. It didn't have anything to do with that. A brand new board going forward, we want to do things differently. That's all. And I want to thank anybody that came out tonight and stayed with us this long. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chambliss, you're up next.
I just wanted to thank everyone who is watching, and if you another long board meeting. So thank you for now. And I just want to personally express my deepest condolences to the LaForge family. Wayne was just a positive force in the community. He was probably the district #1 fan, #1 supporter, not any football games, always wearing purple and gold. Just genuinely amazing man. And his family speaks volumes of that just by the fact that they're also amazing. Him being gone is a huge loss to the district. And I just wanted to say, once an eagle, always an eagle, and he'll be missed.
Thank you. Mr. Holcomb, you're up next.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out, and congratulate the secretaries. And I guess that's about it. Thank everybody.
Thank you. Mrs. Ott, you have the floor.
I'm just going to keep it short and sweet because this is our second long meeting. Thank everybody for coming out and those that stuck with us. And looking forward to a bright future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Beaver.
Okay, mine's not as short just because I didn't get a chance last meeting, so bear with me. I just wanted to start by thanking everybody in our community who voted for me. This position isn't something that I take lightly. I know that it's a huge honor to be here as well as a responsibility. So I want you to know that I take that. And I look forward to working with and brainstorming with our board on moving our district forward. The diversity that everybody brings to the background with their perspective is amazing. And I truly believe that together we can be an amazing team. To all of our amazing staff, you guys have been truly awesome through this pandemic. You have gone above and beyond in every area to ensure the safety and well-being of our kids. At the last meeting, I did vote to return to in person. The decision was incredibly hard. For nights leading up to that meeting, I didn't sleep hardly at all. On January 6th, I attended a meeting with Oakland County School Board members, and only 2 schools were still waiting for their meeting to vote, and all other schools had already voted to open up. So with all of our surrounding schools opening, with the governor's recommendation, with our superintendent's recommendation, I felt it was needed to let that decision be open to our families if they wanted to return or remain virtual. But that doesn't mean the decision wasn't hard. It weighed so heavy on me that our staff didn't get that choice. Since they've been working hard trying to ensure, I've been working very hard trying to ensure the continued safety of our staff. I've attended countless hours of training through Michigan Department of Human Health and Services and have been continuing to pass that information along to Mr. Abdullahan. So I just want you all to know that that decision continues and still continues to weigh heavy on my heart. Mr. Abdullahan, I know that we have a meeting on Monday. I was hoping you could give us an update as where we are with the testing program, and just to let you know that I'm willing to help with any way that that's needed. Mr. Abdullahan, I also wanted to thank you for answering the 1,000,001 questions that I have. I'm sure that I've been so annoying to say the least, but I appreciate you taking the time. And to Ms. Scott, I thank you for taking the time out to get me and Ms. Chambliss up to speed with the kind of legality side of being a board member. I definitely feel more confident in things such as the Open Meetings Act and Robert's Rules because of the time that you took out. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
With that, Mrs. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank everyone that attended tonight's meeting. I want to thank this Board of Education for approving the refunding bond and the Secretary's contract. Congrats to all of us. We really have worked hard this month. So I want to congratulate us all and to thank us all. I'm gonna second Rebecca's. I want to again extend my prayers and condolences to the LaForge family. The Eagle family will miss Wayne. No football game will ever be the same without Wayne or Coach Grizz. We've had 2 big losses within the last year. I hope we'll hold a memorial for Wayne when we can, maybe on the football field, because truly he really was our biggest Eagle fan, and he was an alumni. As Rebecca said, once an Eagle, always an Eagle. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
No.
No. Okay. just in case. I have a couple of things actually, and first of all, we do have a meeting next week, and we will be going into closed session to set the parameters for the teacher's contract. I've only been doing this job now for 2 weeks this time around. So there's going to be some changes and there's going to be some bumps. I am hoping that we've done maybe some of the bigger bumps. We've gotten them behind us and we can move on a little bit more smoothly. At least that's my hope. I did ask Mr. Abdullahad to have a meeting, a study session to talk about goals. I want it to be limited to like 3 because we can't do 100 at a time. But if we can each bring 3 goals that are important to us, a few things happen. We can move forward. Mr. Abdullahad can be fairly held accountable for what our expectation is of him, because honestly, he hasn't been given a list to work off of. So it will help him, it will help us. We will all participate in that. And like I said, I'm really hoping to keep it at 3 each. I know we probably have many more than that. And I'm hoping that our main goals, there's many duplicates. I'm assuming that there will be, but did we set a date for that or a tentative date for that yet, Mr. Abdullahad?
We said it was the week of February 10th. So that could be really, if you want to do the 9th is a Tuesday, the 10th is a Wednesday. Really, the board could, you know. It's up to the
Anybody
board.
have a
We have a meeting on the
preference?
1st. Do you want to do the 9th Tuesday or do you want to do the 10th Wednesday?
Anybody have a preference or a day that they can't come that day or that week?
I have to look at my calendar. I can't.
All right, well, let's tentatively set it for the 9th. And then if there's a problem, I guess we'll readdress it. But I think it's important that we keep the communication open and we keep moving forward for everybody. I personally want to thank Dr. Hill and Mr. Abdullahad. I know that I come from a place where I know what we used to do. And so there's going to be some times, even if it's not intentional, that maybe it looks like headbutting. That's never my intention. My goal is to move forward. And I guess at that point, I'm never going to hope for kumbaya, but I certainly hope that we're all together. And ultimately, and I've said this to others, I do believe that all of us have the same goal. I think some of us have different ways to get there, but I think it's manageable and I'm hopeful, and let's just keep moving ahead. And with that, last motion is adjournment. Do I have a maker?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Ms.
second
Scott.
the motion.
And Mrs. Ott has the second. Can we have roll call, please, Sarah? Oh, Sarah, thank you for all your help. You have been wonderful. I've only had your support for 2 weeks, but it really has been very, very reassuring to know that you've been behind me. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be here next week. So,
All right.
Mrs. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Holcomb,
Yes.
Miss Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Holder,
Yes.
Mrs. Beaver,
Yes.
Miss Chambliss,
Yes.
Mrs. Ott.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Good night, all.
And with,
Good night.
and with
Bye.
that, we say good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Hi, everyone.
Night.
Good night.